So I'm going to talk about objectives and key results and a process to get to them and how this relates to having a motivated group of people working on it. So first off, I work for Microsoft Development Center in Norway, which is a development center, part of Microsoft, located in Norway, obviously, as the name says. And the agenda today is, first I'll give a quick recap of objectives and key results, the basics. Then I'll describe a process for how you can create your objectives and key results, or OKRs. And finally, how OKRs relate to motivation. The methodology of OKRs started in the 80s with Andy Grove at Intel. He has a nice quote here saying there are so many people working so hard and achieving so little. And that's exactly what he wanted to avoid. He wanted to have a framework where it was possible to set huge and inspiring goals and execute on it throughout the organization. And this was something that he successfully pushed to Google in their startup phase, and several other startups such as LinkedIn, Twitter, and Uber has used the OKRs with great success afterwards. So what is this OKR methodology? Well, it's about having objectives, what you're going to achieve, and key results, measures for how you know whether you've achieved it or not. And at the company level, you would typically have 3 to 5 things that you want to achieve. And for each of those objectives, you'd have 3 to 5 key results. Here's an example from Intel in the early days. They decided they want to dominate the mid-range microcomputer component business. That was their objective, and they created a couple of key results to measure that. One of them was that within 1 quarter, they wanted to win 10 design competitions. So that was sort of how they started things. And what's really beautiful with OKRs is they allow a company and an organization at any level to focus on the work that matters, to align, because it's so easy to share these OKRs across the organization. You can see what each department and each team is trying to achieve. And it comes with built-in metrics. The key results are measures, so we can track and use the metrics to follow up. And finally, the OKRs bring motivation, but we'll talk more about that later. So what are your OKRs? Well, in my team, we started using OKRs about a year ago, and initially we created 30 OKRs. Ouch. We were supposed to create 3 to 5, right? And we ended up with a list of 30. How on earth did that happen? So here I have to go to Steve Jobs and Apple, and he says, innovation means saying no to 1,000 things. There are so many things you can do, and they all are so nice and cool in all different ways, right? But you have to say no. So I'm going to try to talk you through an example here. How we came up with the prioritized list of OKRs in my team. The first thing is you gotta have some idea what you want to do, right? You have a mission, and here's the mission we formulated for my team. I'm not going to read it, but basically we want to provide some super fast solutions to the rest of Microsoft. And then the next question is, what's your vision? Where are you going? Well, we had some vague idea about being this acceleration layer. We didn't really know whether we wanted to have a middle tier, whether we want to have a graph language, how people should start using it, how much it should cost. So we had some idea, but not quite. Then you need a strategy. How do you move forward from where you are? Well, that's kind of hard if you don't know where you're going. That's like Alice in Wonderland. So in addition, we had a lot of company guidelines, we had company goals, department goals, and other OKRs at higher levels we needed to adjust to. So what is it that your department, your company says is important? Well, that relates to you as a team. So what we did was we did a SWOT analysis. We looked at our strengths. What are we really good at currently? Well, these are the things that we were good at with our tech. What are we bad at? Well, this kind of relates to some of the vision. We're not really clear on when we should be used and so on. What are the opportunities? What can we do in the market? What can we possibly do within the company? And finally, what are the threats around? Well, there are a couple of other teams that are trying to do the same thing, and it's really hard to get started. If nobody can use our stuff, it doesn't matter how great it is. So we kind of did this honest analysis of where are we at right now. And none of this relates to OKRs, right? So where does the OKRs come in? Well, here's the idea. Now that we know our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, we could define a new vision. So suddenly it was a little bit clearer where we wanted to go. And we could define a strategy because we knew what we were good at, we knew what to build on, and we knew what we were missing. So in our case, a year ago, we clearly identified that, hey, we need a middle tier. We cannot have our partners and clients talk directly to the backend. We have to have a middle tier in between there. That's going to make onboarding much easier. That's going to allow for prototyping and a lot of benefits. And then once we had these things in place, we could actually pick and choose the right OKRs, because now we simply selected OKRs that aligned with our vision, OKRs that were aligned with the strategy, things we knew this is what we have to do first. So based on this, we could actually more or less derive the OKR. So out of all those 30 we started out with, we now were in a position where we could actually pick and choose. So the process I'm proposing here is basically you have to have a mission, you have to know what you want to do, you have to have some idea where you're going, and then you belong in a huge organization probably. The organization have priorities, that there are overall measures and things at higher levels that you want to align to. Then you have to analyze where you're at. Be honest here. Finding a weakness is really a strength, right? Because then you can do something about it. And once you have all of that in place, you can improve your vision. You can really figure out where you want to go. Maybe you can have a 1-year vision and a 2-year vision. And then you can define a strategy. And once you have that, your OKRs more or less falls out of it. So this is really the key of this talk. Here's an approach you can use in order to figure out where to get those nice OKRs. And with that said, OKRs are really nice to have in place, but they don't just appear out of the sky. Once you have them, they show the purpose. So every time a developer in my team checks in something, they know why they're doing it. They can see how they links to higher level objectives. They can see how it links to our team objectives. And it really is motivating to feel that purpose. This is why we're doing it. The OKR methodology also allows us to, as a team, choose how we contribute to the company's success. So this gives us autonomy. We could create about half our OKRs freely and then align the rest to the org. And the same applies at an individual level. As an individual, you can choose which of the things in your team are you contributing to and what other things you want to do. And finally, the last piece of motivation is really mastery. And that's all about finding the right ambition level. Because if you, as a team, define OKRs that are way too ambitious for the next 6 months, it's all going to feel like a failure. So make sure you have the right ambition level. You don't want to do everything that you say you want to do, because then you made it too easy for yourself. You want to stretch, but you also want to achieve something. In the end, I'll quote Daniel Pink here. He says, all of us want to be part of something bigger than ourselves, something that matters. And I think that's really true. I recommend reading these 2 books. John Doerr has a nice book about OKRs. It has a lot of scenarios and examples, and it's very to the point about the methodology itself. And Daniel Pink writes a lot about motivation and drive. Combining these 2 is what I've tried to talk about here. And finally, I'll just throw it out there in the end. Can you be agile and do OKRs, or are OKRs like a top-down methodology? Well, I'll say it's perfectly possible to be agile and execute in an agile fashion while having OKRs. but it doesn't have to be so. So make sure that you are both agile and OKR driven. Thank you.